Why a lot of millennials and Gen Z feeling hopeless. Imagine this. You're lying in bed, eyes glued to your screen, endlessly doom scrolling through a parade of other people's highlight reels, lavish vacations, new cars, diamond-studded soft life aesthetics, and not just influencers, your friends, your cousins, even that one random classmate you haven't spoken to since 8th grade, flexing a lifestyle that costs more than your entire year's salary. And in the silence of the night, one question echoes louder than the rest. Will I ever live like that? But the deeper truth, the odds are stacked against you, the economy has shifted, the rules of the game have changed, and what used to be called a comfortable life now feels more like a fantasy novel than a financial goal. If you've ever felt hopeless trying to catch up with your parents' stability, your peers' progress, or your cousin's curated perfection, you're not alone. More than 60% of Gen Z is already reporting anxiety about the future, and it's not just a phase. This fear is rooted in something real: widening income gaps, skyrocketing costs, and a system that no longer shows you the path to level up. What's worse, if you haven't felt the pinch yet, the coming years might just drag you into this black hole of financial uncertainty. So here comes the big question: what happened? Can you break out of this trap? And most importantly, is there still time to turn the tide? The answer is yes, but only if you know the map. By the end of this video, you won't just be armed with facts. You'll have a real roadmap, a strategy to pull yourself out of the fog and rise above the 99% still wandering without direction. But let me warn you, it is going to get ugly before it becomes good. So stick around till the end, because what comes next might just be the first step in rewriting your financial story. Part 1, where are we? And why are we here? Where's all the money? That's the question on everyone's mind. When you scroll through Instagram and see someone buying a $200,000 car like it's a sandwich, while you're counting coins at the end of the month just to make rent, it makes you wonder, how is that even possible? Let's break it down. The world doesn't lack wealth, it's just all in the same few hands. Right now, 80% of global wealth is owned by just the top 2 to 3% of people. That's not the top 10%, not even the top 5%. We're talking about the tip of the pyramid, those who live in a completely different financial universe. Below them, the so-called upper middle and middle class, they're all scrambling over the leftover 20%. Competing in a game that was rigged from the start. Go further down, the lower middle class, they're clinging to crumbs, barely 0.3% of the total wealth. And at the very bottom, the poorest 11%, they don't even own a slice of the wealth pie. They're handed a different pie altogether, one made of bills, debt, and desperation. This isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet. This is why it feels like no matter how hard you work, you're still falling behind. And then came the final blow, the COVID-19 pandemic. Instead of leveling the playing field, it widened the gap. While billionaires saw record-breaking wealth gains, millions lost jobs, savings, homes, even hope. And no generation has felt this punch harder than the late millennials and early Gen Z, those born between 1990 and 2005. The ones who've just stepped into the workforce are building sandcastles in a hurricane. They studied hard, did everything right. And still, the rules changed the moment they arrived. A recent Bankrate survey found that 1 in 3 Gen Z workers aren't saving for retirement at all, not because they don't want to, but because they simply can't. Millennials aren't doing much better. Even the ones who are saving feel like they're running on a treadmill going nowhere. They're buried under record-breaking student debt, with wages that barely keep up with inflation, trying to build wealth when you're still trying to dig out of the hole you started in. And now Gen Z, they're facing impossible choices just to get a degree. A college education has become less of a stepping stone and more of a financial cliff. The only way to reach the starting line is to borrow a lifetime of debt for a job market that no longer guarantees anything in return. So if you're feeling like the game is unfair, that no matter how hard you try, you're always 10 steps behind, you're not imagining it. You're standing in a world that was built to protect wealth at the top while leaving everyone else to fight for scraps. And yet, despite all this, we're still told it's our fault, that we just need to work harder. Part 2, how did it get this bad? It didn't happen overnight, but over the past few decades, the cracks in the system turned into craters. And while this decline was already in motion, the 2008 financial crash slammed the gas pedal, fast-forwarding inequality, wiping out opportunities, and draining hope. Now, not only are job opportunities shrinking, but the gap between rich and poor is growing wider by the day. More and more people aren't dreaming anymore. They're just trying to stay afloat. Reason 1, the death of the American dream. There was a time, not that long ago, when one income was enough. A single paycheck could support an entire family. A house, a car, kids in school, vacations once a year, and savings on top. That was the American dream. And for a lot of people, it actually existed. Today, 2 full-time incomes barely cover the basics: rent, groceries, bills, insurance, debt. The goal isn't to thrive anymore, it's to survive. Paycheck to paycheck has become the norm, not the exception. And here's why. In the 1980s, you could buy a decent house with a down payment roughly equal to 1 month's salary. Today, that same house may cost you a year's salary up front just to enter the market. Wages haven't kept up, not even close. According to Pew Research, since 1990, cost of living has gone up by 67%, but median hourly wages, just 18%. Meanwhile, a 2023 Harvard study found that nearly 50% of renter households in the US are cost-burdened, spending more than 30% of their income on rent alone. That means half of Americans renting today are one emergency away from disaster. And as if that wasn't enough, the next issue completely blocks the way forward. Reason 2, the broken promise of college. For decades, the formula was simple. Go to college, get a good job, live a good life. It worked. A degree was a golden ticket, affordable, respected, and worth the time. You'd graduate debt-free or close to it and walk into a booming job market that actually needed you. Fast forward to today, that promise has collapsed. Now, college is a financial gamble with no guaranteed return. The average cost of a degree has more than doubled or tripled since the 1990s, according to bestcolleges.com. And even with a solid degree, many young people are underpaid, unemployed, or stuck in irrelevant jobs. And then comes the debt. $176 trillion in student loans. Millions of young people start adult life already drowning in red. And yet society still tells them, just get a degree, you'll be fine. But they're not fine. They're angry, exhausted, and disillusioned because the system sold them a dream and handed them a bill. What was once a gateway to opportunity has now become a trapdoor into financial struggle. And here's the thing, even that might have been manageable if it weren't for the third reason. Because the final factor, it's the pressure cooker, the one squeezing this generation harder than any before. Reason 3, the dying concept of a career. From the 1950s to the 2010s, life followed a predictable path. People graduated, and more often than not, they knew exactly what kind of work awaited them. The earlier you go in history, the more stability you'll find in people's careers. Most joined a company straight out of college and retired from the same one 4 decades later. That was the norm. It wasn't just about job security, it was about life security. And to top it off, wages were decent too, as we discussed earlier. But today, the job landscape is evolving at breakneck speed, and that pace is only accelerating. According to the World Economic Forum, the average American now has 7 different careers over the course of their working life, which spans about 42 years. That's a new career roughly every 6 years. This means people already in the workforce must reinvent themselves every few years just to stay relevant. In this new world, jobs are no longer determined by your degree, but by your skills. And that's where the problem begins for today's youth. In the past, college was the place to get trained for a career, but that's no longer true. By the time a student enters college and graduates 3 to 4 years later, most of the skills they were taught are already outdated. Worse yet, our education system isn't even built to teach skills. It's designed to distribute information, not practical ability. If you think this sounds grim, hold on, because in the next segment, things are about to get even more disturbing. Part 3, will it keep on getting worse? That's the scary part. Yes, unless you're actively adapting. The rate of change we're seeing isn't slowing down. In fact, we're just getting started. We're no longer in an era of slow, predictable shifts. We're now living through compounding disruption, where multiple forces are simultaneously rewriting the rules of work, life, and survival. The rise of AI. One of the biggest accelerants is artificial intelligence. AI isn't just a tool anymore, it's a replacement. It's not just helping humans work faster. In many cases, it's doing the job better, cheaper, and 24/7. From writing emails and coding software to analyzing legal documents and diagnosing diseases, AI is doing what only trained professionals could do a few years ago. And the brutal reality, AI doesn't need a lunch break, a salary, or a weekend off. So the question is no longer, will my job be affected by AI? It's how long do I have before it is? A new world economic order. Add to that the shifting world economy. We're entering a phase where traditional economic powers are being challenged. Emerging markets are rising fast, geopolitical tensions are reshaping trade routes, and automation is making labor costs less relevant than ever before. In the 90s, you could reasonably expect that if you had a degree and lived in a developed country, you'd land a stable, well-paying job. Today, not anymore. Power is dispersing. The US and Europe no longer have a monopoly on innovation, tech, or manufacturing. Countries like China, India, and Vietnam are catching up, or in some areas even surpassing. Globalization, a double-edged sword. Globalization promised the world would become more connected, more efficient, more prosperous, and to a large extent it did. But for the individual worker, it's a war zone. You're no longer competing with just the kid from your class. You're competing with millions of people across the planet. who are willing to do the same work for half the pay, and sometimes with double the hunger. Companies can now outsource talent with a few clicks. Designers in Argentina, coders in Poland, writers in the Philippines, marketers in India, everyone's on the same digital playing field now. And unless you bring something truly unique to the table, you're replaceable. Part 4. How is youth falling into the matrix? I know you can feel it in your bones. That's why a lot of people have resorted to drastic measures. They're desperate to escape this suffocating loop, to break free from the crushing weight of comparison, debt, and hopelessness. And in that desperation, they're chasing quick fixes because the system isn't offering them a roadmap, so they look for shortcuts. Any shortcut, they're falling for. Get-rich-quick schemes disguised as master classes, crypto opportunities from influencers who cashed out before the crash, dropshipping tutorials that promise millions with zero effort, trading apps that make losing money feel like a game. They're maxing out credit cards to keep up appearances, trying to look successful because they're told that's what success should look like. They're investing blindly, not because they understand the market, but because someone on TikTok said this coin is going to 100x. They're taking on buy now, pay later loans for things they can't afford, because waiting is painful and patience doesn't go viral. And when it doesn't work, when the promised shortcut crashes and burns, they're left with financial scars so deep it becomes hard to come back from. Some hit rock bottom, others just keep sinking. This is what's known as financial suicide. Not a one-time event, but a slow, compounding collapse. It's not that they didn't try, it's that the options they're given are either too slow to matter or too risky to survive. They're told to invest for the long term, while rent eats half their income. Told to build skills while college drains their bank account and teaches outdated theory. They're not being irrational. They're reacting exactly as anyone would when the long road is broken and the fast road is a trap. That's what makes this generation's struggle so unique and so misunderstood. Because when hope feels like a scam, desperation becomes strategy. Part 5. What you can do to get out of this trap. Now, here are 5 things that can save you from this constant grind. But understand that the system is set up so that not everyone can win. But if you do follow all these steps here, I can say with reasonable confidence that you will come out much better off on the other side. Before that, if you have reached this far, it means you need more of this. So like and subscribe, and do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let's be honest, there's no magic button, no viral hack, no overnight breakthrough, no secret 3-step plan that fixes everything, because this trap wasn't built overnight, and climbing out of it won't happen overnight either. But here's the truth, the only real way out is slowly, quietly, and strategically building your way out. And that starts with one painful, uncomfortable realization. You have to stop playing a game that was designed for you to lose. Step 1, disconnect from the illusion. You don't have to delete social media, but you do need to stop letting it define your self-worth. Remember, you're not seeing people's lives. You're seeing their highlight reels filtered through marketing, timing, and sometimes complete fiction. What you think is failure is often just reality. What you think is success is often just a rented Lamborghini and a borrowed life. You need to stop comparing your behind the scenes with someone else's trailer. Step 2, say no to shortcuts. It's tempting, no doubt, but get rich quick is the fastest way to stay broke. If something promises effortless success, passive income overnight, or guaranteed returns, run. Not walk, run. Instead, start building real skills, stuff that compounds, stuff that matters. Writing, sales, coding, design, strategy, storytelling, communication, even understanding how money actually works, taxes, debt, investing, negotiation. These skills aren't sexy at first, but they're the tools that free you in the long run. I have an entire video just on this topic that'll give you the fastest and easiest way to become unstoppable with strategically skilling yourself. It'll be a game changer for you. I'll link it at the end of the video. Step 3, build something small, but yours. It doesn't have to be a startup. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just start owning something. A small service, a digital product, a niche audience, a newsletter, a channel, a brand. Even if it makes $5 a month, that's yours. No boss, no layoffs, no false promises. The goal isn't just money, it's control. Control gives you confidence, and confidence gives you leverage. Step 4, be unstoppable by giving value. The traditional career path, dead. Degrees don't guarantee success anymore. Skills and value do. If you can solve a real problem, make someone money, save them time, or ease their pain, you become irreplaceable. Value is your new currency, and it doesn't come from titles. It comes from what you can do. Can you write, build, sell, design, organize, teach? If yes, opportunities will chase you. If not, start learning fast. In most cases, it won't take you more than a year, sometimes days and months, to acquire a sellable skill, because in today's world, you don't find jobs, you create demand. Be the person who makes things happen. Don't just be employable, be unignorable. Step 5. Design your life for resilience, not just success. You're not in a sprint, you're in a war of attrition. That means managing your energy is more important than managing your image. Sleep well, move your body, eat real food, limit toxic inputs, both people and content. In today's world, the problem is not lack of resources, it is the excess of it. Excess eating, excess consumption, excess reading, excess social media. As soon as you stop that, you'll see that your physical, mental, and financial fitness just starts leveling up automatically. Most people don't fail because they're not talented. They fail because they burn out chasing things that don't matter. Your mental health isn't a luxury, it's your survival tool. You don't need to go viral. You don't need 100K followers. You don't need to make 10K a month by 23. You need progress. And you need peace, because in a world that thrives on urgency, calm is a superpower. It's not your fault the system is broken, but it is your responsibility to find your way through it. No guru will save you, no course will fix you, but you, with time, effort, and a clear mind, absolutely can. Hustle culture is wonderful, but patience with yourself will set you apart, because oftentimes it's not the fastest who wins, it's the most consistent who wins. Now, as promised, here's the video that will scale up your money earning capacity to a whole new level, because this is what Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, and Jeff Bezos have used to get ahead of everyone else.